Hello and welcome to April's Metastatic Breast Cancer podcast, where we continue our journey through Thich Nhat Hanh's book, No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering. And this month's focus is on deep relaxation. And Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that happiness is not an individual matter. It has the nature of interbeing or interconnectedness. When you are able to make one friend smile, their happiness will nourish you also. When you find ways to foster peace, joy, and happiness, you do it for everyone. You can begin by nourishing yourself with joyful feelings. Practice walking meditation outside, enjoying the fresh air, the trees, and the stars in the night sky. And what you do when you nourish yourself is nourish others also. And we can really tap into that feeling of interconnectedness. Freedom means transcending the trap of harmful desires and being without attachments, whether to an institution, a diploma, or a certain rank. From time to time, we encounter people who are free and can do whatever is needed. But what happens when we become indifferent? And I think that this is a real issue that we have in society, where we become so focused on the individual that we begin to negate or forget the needs of the collective and forget that our liberation is not only interconnected, it is also intersectional. And when we become indifferent, we not only shut ourselves off from the suffering and pain of others, but also from embracing our own pain and suffering within. And when we do that, nothing is enjoyable, interesting, or worth striving for. We don't experience love or understanding, and our life lacks that sense of true joy and meaning. We don't even notice the beauties of nature or the laughter of our friends, of others. We are unable to touch the suffering or the happiness of others. If you find yourself in a state of indifference, ask your friends or family for help. And remind yourself that even with all its suffering, life is filled with many wonders. Free from attachment and aversion, the kind of love the Buddha wanted us to cultivate is not possessive or attached. All of us, young and old, have a tendency to become attached. As soon as we are born, attachment to self is already there. In wholesome love relationships, there is a certain amount of possessiveness and attachment. But if it's excessive, both people suffer. If a father thinks he owns his son, or if a young man tries to put restrictions on his girlfriend or partner, then love becomes a prison. This is also true in relationships between friends, teachers, students, and so on. Attachment obstructs the flow of life, and without mindfulness, attachment always becomes aversion. Both attachment and aversion lead to suffering. Look deeply to discover the nature of your love and identify the degree of attachment and possessiveness in your love. Then you can begin untangling the knots. The seeds of true love, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity are already there in our store consciousness. Through the practice of deep looking, the seeds of suffering and attachment will shrink and the positive seeds will grow. We can transform attachment and aversion and arrive at a love that is spacious and all-encompassing. When we fall down, we have physical pain. When we're sad, we call it emotional pain. But mind and body are not separate, and suffering is not just an emotion. We hold suffering in our body. The practice of deep relaxation is a way to acknowledge and soothe the suffering in the body and the suffering in the mind. Deep relaxation begins with observing our bodies. You can start with your eyes. Breathing in, I'm aware of my eyes. Breathing out, I smile to my eyes with gratitude and love. Then bring your awareness down to your nose, your mouth, your throat, and continue down to your toes. You're doing a scan of your body, not with an X-ray, but with a ray of mindfulness. You go through your whole body, bringing your awareness to each part. Breathing in, I'm aware of my heart. Breathing out, I smile to my heart with love. My heart is essential to my well-being. It works non-stop and nourishes all the cells in my body. I'm so grateful to my heart. I get to rest and sleep, but my heart never stops. Yet I've done things to hurt my heart. And there are plenty of ways that we've done things to hurt our heart. As you breathe in and out, embrace your heart with mindfulness. You can see things like this. This kind of insight can transform and heal. You know exactly what you should consume and what you should not consume to be kind to your heart, which is an essential condition of your happiness. You go through all your organs, all the parts of your body in this way. This is the contemplation of the body in the body. There's a basic text in Buddhism that teaches us how to meditate on our body. It's called the Kaya-gata-sati Sutta, mindfulness of the body in the body. The body is an important object of meditation. It contains the cosmos, the kingdom of God, the pure land of the Buddha, Thich Nhat Hanh says, and our ancestors, both spiritual and genetic. Meditating on the body, we can get in touch with all these things and nourish our happiness and well-being, as well as the happiness and well-being of those around us. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us that there are 5 mindfulness trainings which are guidelines for how to live our daily lives in a way that nourishes happiness and transforms ill-being. The 5 mindfulness trainings are also the kind of thinking and acting that have the power to heal. You can recite them daily or monthly, alone or with a group, to renew your intentions and as inspiration to practice. So we'll be covering the first few in this month. The first mindfulness training is reverence for life. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing, compassion, and learning ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world in my thinking or in my way of life. Seeing that harmful actions arise from anger, fear, greed, and intolerance, which in turn come from dualistic and discriminative thinking. I will cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, and dogmatism in myself and in the world. The second mindfulness training is true happiness. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I am committed to practicing generosity in my thinking, speaking, and acting. I am determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. And I will share my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. I will practice looking deeply to see that the happiness and suffering of others are not separate from my own happiness and suffering, that true happiness is not possible without understanding and compassion, and that running after wealth, fame, power, and sensual pleasures can bring much suffering and despair. I am aware that happiness depends on my mental attitude and not on external conditions, and that I can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that I already have more than enough conditions to be happy. I am committed to practicing right livelihood, so that I can help reduce the suffering of living beings on Earth and reverse the process of global warming. And finally, our third mindfulness training, true love. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I am committed to cultivating responsibility and learning ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. Knowing that sexual desire is not love and that sexual activity motivated by craving always harms myself as well as others. I am determined not to engage in sexual relations without true love and a deep long-term commitment made known to my family and friends. I will do everything in my power to protect all children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. Seeing that mind and body are one, I am committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of my own sexual energy and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness, which are the 4 basic elements of true love. For my greater happiness and the greater happiness of others, practicing true love, we know that we will continue beautifully into the future. So as we sit with these 3 practices of his 7, chapter 7, that is, of the 5 mindfulness trainings, the first being reverence for life, the second being true happiness, and the third being true love, just a reminder that we don't have to practice these perfectly. We are, as humans, imperfect. But we have to try to cultivate through the practice of meditation and mindfulness a dedication and a commitment to practicing these to the best of our ability each day and each moment. And knowing that in turn, that is a deep and profound way for us to transform our own hearts and minds, and in turn, the hearts and minds of others. I hope that you will join me in April for our Metastatic Breast Cancer Mindfulness Group, where we will continue with going through No Mud, No Lotus and discussing this chapter on deep relaxation and the 5 mindfulness trainings in more detail. I wish you a safe and blessed month ahead.